panic too much. Yes, Ian.
Doesn't that only apply to 2 by 2 matrices?
Yes. So you're going to be working with. Okay.
Right here.
Just wait. My gosh. Jeez, Louise. I will get you through it. Don't worry, okay? Find the inverse of A, then verify the result with your calculator. Okay. So, here's my original matrix. I'm going to label it A, B, C, and D. Those are the original positions of those letters in a matrix. I'm going to write down the formula here. The inverse of A is equal to 1 over A times D minus C times B. A, negative B, negative C, and A. Yes. Oh, this is D, sorry. Switch the position. Okay. Now, all we're going to do is we're going to plug in what we know. So, A, the inverse of A, and I'm going to show you the purpose of this on the other side, the reason we're doing it. So I'm going to plug in what I know. A times D. What's A times D equal? Minus C times B, which is what? Which is going to become a plus 16 here, isn't it? Okay. Then I fill in. All I do is I switch the position of A and D, so it's going to be negative 3 and 5. I switched the position of A and D. And then I make B and C their opposite. So it becomes 2 and negative 8. So this turned out really pretty. What does this equal on the bottom? 1 over 1, which is just 1, correct? Times this. And 1 times anything is just that thing.
That's false. 1 times 0 is 0.
Okay, you're right. Got me on that one. So, the inverse of this matrix right here, which we'll label A, is this. And I'll show you the purpose of that on the back side here. We found the inverse. We are not going to do this.
God bless your soul.
Yes. Oh, well, this.
You have to learn eventually.
And I'm going to label it A, B, C, and D. It's not always going to turn out with a pretty little 1 in the front. That's why I'm showing you a different one, okay? So, let's just start filling in what we know. I'm going to do this. The inverse of A, let's say this is A. The inverse of A is equal to 1 over A times D. What's A times D?
8.
Minus C times B, which is what?
Plus.
Negative 3, so it's going to become a what?
Plus 3.
See how it's not always going to be 1? And then I have to switch the position of A and D, switch the position of A and D, and change the sign of B and C. I'm just drawing a line there so you can see where we're at. Okay. So I'm just going to change this to, can I cross this off here and so we don't have to rewrite it all? This is actually going to become 1 over 11, isn't it? I'm going to squeeze it in there. 1 over 11. So now what am I going to have to do to finish this?
Times by 11.
Multiply each element by 1 over 11. And then I'll have the inverse. So it looks like this. Do you know how to multiply by a number out here? You just multiply, oh my gosh, is it fractions again? I'm sorry. Look how easy this is. You guys, come on now. 1 over 11. It's just 4 over 11. How easy is that?
Oh, that's hard. I'm not doing that.
Okay? Seriously. 4 over 11, 3 over 11, negative 1 over 11, and 2 over 11.
That's so hard.
Wow, that was painful.
Woo! What a hard problem.
Okay. So this is the inverse of that. Now, let's learn how to do that on the calculator. Do you need to do it by hand? Yeah.
No.
But you also need to know how to do it on the calculator. So let's enter this one on one of your matrices. Remember, whatever letter it is you choose.
Do we have to memorize the inverse?
Yes, you do.
That's not too bad.
It's not bad.
Hey.
2 by 2. Oh, no, not 22.
So wait, where do we go?
I did the same thing, don't feel better.
Okay. I'm entering it into A. It doesn't matter what letter you enter it into. Whatever letter you want.
Oh, we probably on H. Wait, how do we get there?
Matrix.
I'm just
Yeah, how do
kidding,
you
I
get
got it. Oh, what's supposed to be? You go second.
Oh.
I'm entering this one right here. 2 by 2. And then we're going to have the calculator find the inverse for us. I bet some of you know how to do it already. My letter was A. Can I get out of this screen now? Okay, watch. So I want the inverse of A. So I'm going to call up my matrices, which I only have one. I'm going to choose the one I want. Look at this button right here. Can you see it? X to the negative 1. That's finding inverse. So you push it. It's right under the math button. Oh, look at that.
It's going way too fast for me.
It's the same as the.
But
It's only just that.
did everybody find that button? When you push enter, wow, that's ugly, isn't it? But guess what? Math button, fraction, and enter, and look at that.
Yeah, I'm just putting in the.
That's the answer.
Math practice.
I really like this. What was the button again?
Math practice.
Alright, okay, can you restart?
It's right under the math button.
What happens
X to the negative 1.
Yeah, what happens when you put in the numbers for the 2 by 2?
So you did this, right?
Yup.
Yeah, we did that.
Okay, wait. So I'm editing. So I'm here, right?
Yup.
Yeah, we have all those.
Quit out of there. Get out of that screen. Second quit. Got a blank screen?
Yup.
Yeah.
Call up that matrix. So you got to go to matrix again and choose A.
Okay.
And then the inverse button is right under the math button. Push that button.
-1. Where's the negative? Whoa, I got 2, 3, 1, 2.
Did you get that? Yeah?
Where under the
Yeah.
math?
Push enter. Push enter.
Enter.
But I got ugly decimals. So how do I get rid of the decimals?
You hit fraction.
Math, fraction, fraction. Inverse. What happens to this? Correct?
Yup.
And I will get x equals whatever my answer is, correct? You apply that same thing that you've been doing for years now to matrices. Look, we have a matrix times x equals this. I need to solve for x. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to find the inverse. Let's label this A. I'm going to find the inverse of A. Multiply those two together, which will make them just go away. It just equals 1. And then I'm going to multiply this by the inverse of A, and I'll get my answer of what x is.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not-
the same concept. Look up here again. How do I get rid of this fraction?
Multiply by 3.
Multiply by 3 halves. What's 3 halves times 2/3? 1. 1. Any number by its inverse is 1. Any matrix by its inverse is 1.
Besides 0.
Okay? Then I multiply this by 3 halves, and I would find out that 12 over 10, x is equal to 12 over 10. It's the same thing you're going to do here. You're going to multiply both sides by the inverse of A. Okay? Doesn't take long. All right, let's do this.
Can we do it with the calculator?
No, in a minute you can. All right, so the first one, we have to find the inverse of A. In order to solve this, we have to find the inverse of A. Let's remember, it's 1 over, what? A times D. A times D, which are these two. So it's 15 minus C times B, which is what? 14. Oh, look how pretty that is.
Oh, that's like a lot.
And then for this matrix, what do? You what? Flip what? Not really flip, but you switch the positions of A and D, and you change the sign of B and C. So there's the inverse. This equals 1 times this. So my inverse is actually just this, correct? Just that.
Can you slide your paper? Thank you.
Now here's the one sneaky thing you have to remember about this. Let me see how I can write this. This is what it's going to equal. X is going to equal the inverse times b. Now here's the thing that's very, very important. When you multiply these two together, you have to put the inverse in front.
Why?
Because you won't get the right answer if you multiply it the other order. Because remember what you're doing when you're multiplying. You're multiplying rows times columns and you're adding the elements, and it doesn't work out if you don't do it with the inverse in front. That's the thing about it. You have to remember to do the inverse in front. So I'm going to do that. The inverse is 5273. That's my inverse of A times B.
Now can we use a calculator?
Shut up.
I'm just going to give you the answer. How's that?
That's what
Okay? So we solved for X using the inverse. Think about how smart you are now. You can go home and say you solved for X using inverse matrices at the dinner table.
When would we ever use this in life?
They use the cost and inventory one apparently in business. I don't know. Okay, let's put a little line here, because now we're going to use the same idea to solve systems of equations. And this is beautiful. This is where we're going with matrices, solving systems of equations. So you have to write a coefficient. I didn't spell that right. It's only one E. Coefficient matrix. And I'll help you with this. Don't worry. And you're going to write a variable matrix.
Oh, there's only one.
And it's going to equal a constant matrix. And I'll show you what I mean. In these two equations, where are the coefficients?
5 and...
Where are they? In front of the what? Okay. So how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need a 2 by 2. I have -2 and 3 in my first equation. And I have 5 and 1 in my second equation. Those are the coefficients. How many different types of variables do I have? Just 2. So I'm going to write this one as x and y. Those are my 2 variables. Just because then we wouldn't be able to use the inverse. We wouldn't be able to multiply. You have to, and I'll show you how it works out. Then your constants are going to be just like this. The constants are what it's equal to, -11 and 19. If I label these A and B, does anybody have any idea how I could solve for my x and my y?
I do, but I really don't want to show
What do you think?
Oh, I do.
What do you think, Amanda?
the inverse of the coefficient matrix.
You find the inverse of this, and you multiply it by b. And it's going to give you your x and y. Yes, it will. So let's do it on the calculator, shall we?
Wait, do we have to know this? By hand?
No, do it by hand. not
It's
like-
really the same thing as you did up here. You found the inverse of a, and then you multiply by that. But we'll just do it on the calculator.
But then you find x.
So put in A, put in A in your calculator. Yeah, we can just edit the one that's there. And then put in another matrix for your constant matrix, which is just a 2 by 1. Oops. You don't. You don't do the x and the y. You just do this one and this one. And then you're going to have the calculator do this operation right here. So once you have your matrices in, you go out to just clear screen, you quit that, and you tell the calculator to multiply the inverse of A times, mine was B. I don't know what yours was. So you call up your matrix, choose A, you make it an inverse. Can you see it? Make it an inverse and multiply it times matrix B.
Oh my gosh, I'm so lost. No, I'm not, just kidding.
Oh my god, we got the same answer.
I'm kidding.
So what I have here, I'm going to do this. This is telling
I
me
got 38 over 7.
that this equals 4 and negative 1. What does that tell me then?
That your x is 4 and your y is negative.
Right, it tells me that x is 4 and y is negative 1, and I'm going to write that as an ordered pair because the solution of a system is an ordered pair. It's a point. Okay? Let's do another one. X equals DVD. I'm just going to kind of get you started on this. Y equals games. And Z equals VHS. It's the same kind of problem we had the other day. Wait, did you have that or was it algebra?
No, we had one.
Was it you guys? Okay.
Do this.
At a video store, the cost of 3 DVDs, 2 video games, and 4 VHS movies is $130. Oh, wait. There's an equation right there. I have X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to write down what I know. 3 DVDs plus 2 videos plus 4 VHS equals 130.
How many videos?
Okay, so there's one equation. I got another
Yeah.
equation here. The cost of 2 DVDs plus 1 video game plus 5 VHS is 105. There's my second equation. I'm just getting it right out of this story problem here. The last one is 3x plus 3y plus 3z equals 135. The beauty is that we can do this very easily on the calculator. We have to set up a coefficient matrix. What are my coefficients? 3, 2, and 4.
Oh, it's going to be 3 by 3.
2, 1, and 5. 3, 3, and 3. My 3 variables that I'm solving for are x, y, and z. And it's going to equal 130, 105, 135. Now, if you labeled this A and this B on your matrices, all you would do is enter it in, go to your calculator, make sure the inverse is in front of the B. You don't have to do it. I'm just going to tell you what it is.
No, I want to do it. Make
Okay.
it more
Yeah, seriously, I want to.
That's the quietest you have ever been.
Yeah, I bet.
You start talking fast.
That's because these are so much fun.